Dear President, Commission colleagues, the past year was historic for Bosnia and Herzegovina. First, the granting of candidate status was a clear, a positive and an encouraging sign of a new dynamic in the European Union, of a new understanding of our geopolitical needs and of our own responsibility towards the Western Balkans. And the citizens of Bosnia and Herzegovina, who for such a long time expressed their Euro-Atlantic aspirations, deserved this sign. But candidate status is not only a concession, it is also a responsibility for countries to deliver. The elections of October 2022 allowed us precisely that. A very swift formation of state-level government allowed for moving forward on dozens of policies that have been blocked for years by uncooperative political actors. We see Bosnia and Herzegovina really moving forward and closer to the EU, delivering with concrete results. We have to welcome and we applaud this progress, and we expect the authorities to continue building on and seizing this new momentum, this new dynamic. However, despite this very positive progress, we cannot ignore the main obstacle to the EU integration. On the very day that we commemorate Srebrenica, when we stress the importance of unity and reconciliation, we must condemn the escalation in dangerous and secessionist rhetoric by Milorad Dodik and the Republika Srpska leadership. Genocide denial is not acceptable. Undermining Dayton and the constitutional order is not acceptable. Awarding medals to Vladimir Putin is not acceptable. With the end of the blockages, it is clear division and secessionism are the most serious obstacle to the EU integration for Bosnia and Herzegovina. That is why the Commission must keep the funds for Republika Srpska suspended until democratic backsliding stops and until full alignment with our common foreign and security policy is ensured. That is also why the Council must make use of the sanctions regime and finally sanction Mr. Dodik and other destabilizing actors. And that is why the High Representative and EUFOR Althea have our full support in implementing and protecting peace and stability in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The lessons of Dayton cannot and will not be forgotten. When Russia brutally invades a sovereign Ukraine, when Iran oppresses and represses women, we have to be clear in the defense of our values. And we count on Bosnian diplomacy at home and in multilateral fora, and also on the enforcement of sanctions by its national authorities. It is clear that there were attempts by foreign actors to create instability in the Western Balkans, to create another front in their war against Europe. Our response and the Bosnian response can only be unity and reconciliation. Only by ensuring rights to all citizens and peoples and no discrimination. Only by protecting minorities and only by aligning with European standards can we move from Dayton to Brussels and find a common future together. I have to say that it was a privilege to be the standing rapporteur for Bosnia and Herzegovina along this term. I have seen the aspirations of Bosnians in Sarajevo, in Banja Luka, in Mostar, and the willingness to commemorate but also to overcome the wounds of the past for a better future for all. That is our hope. That is the hope that we have in Bosnian people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now the floor goes to the Commissioner, Mr. Olivér VÁRHELYI. Please.
Madam President, honourable members, today is the 11th of July. Today we are remembering Srebrenica. In July 1995, over 8,372 Muslim men and boys were deliberately and systematically killed by the Bosnian Serb forces in the UN safe area of Srebrenica, a town that they thought to be a safe haven in the war that was ravaging in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Their bodies were thrown in mass graves facing the ground with their hands tied. As the last victims of Srebrenica are buried in dignity, our hearts and thoughts are once again with them and with the survivors, their families and friends. We remember and honour the victims, and we extend our sympathy to all those grieving. May they find healing for their enduring pain. Europe has not forgotten what has happened in Srebrenica, and our own responsibility for not being able to prevent and stop the genocide. In Srebrenica, Europe failed, and we are faced with our shame, and it is therefore our duty to remember Srebrenica forever. This is also one of the reasons why Europe is taking such a strong stance in the current geopolitical context and Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. We want to prevent history from being repeated. We believe in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and therefore the Commission recommended to grant candidate status to the country, which was followed by a decision of the European Council last December. Now that the governments are in the office at all levels, all preconditions are there for Bosnia and Herzegovina to start to deliver on the key priorities set out in our opinion, and we all have high expectations. This is the reason why I travelled to Sarajevo on the 17th of May to exchange views with the chairwoman of the Council of Ministers, Borjana Krišto, and with the executive and legislative representatives in the high-level political forum. The forum was an opportunity to discuss the state of play and mainly what the new established authorities could achieve during this year. There is no time to lose. We have started to see some positive developments, including the adoption of the state budget, adoption of the migration strategy, adoption of the counter-terrorism strategy, endorsement by the Council of Ministers of the law on foreign affairs, endorsement of the draft law on conclusion and execution of international agreements, endorsement of the draft law on the freedom of access to information, opening of Europol contact point only last month. It will be key that further reforms are adopted in due time so that the Commission may take these developments into account and report on them in the upcoming enlargement package in the autumn. In particular, we expect to see the Parliament adopting reforms on the integrity in the judiciary, conflict of interest, anti-money laundering and prevention of torture. These are all long-standing items which are mature for adoption. Bosnia and Herzegovina also needs to develop a national plan for the adoption of the acquis, and it needs to put an end to measures restricting trade in breach of our Stabilisation and Association Agreement. Political leaders have a great responsibility. They need to choose the rule of law, democracy and cooperation to build a brighter and prosperous future for the next generations. The leaders of the country must take full ownership and lead by example. We condemn the recent decisions adopted by the Republika Srpska National Assembly on the non-application of the Bosnia and Herzegovina Constitutional Court decisions, as well as the decision to suspend cooperation on EU key projects. The EU regrets that it was necessary for the High Representative to act and to put them out of force. This runs counter to the wishes and the interest of the citizens of Bosnia and Herzegovina, including those living in the Republika Srpska and who believe in a common European future. Likewise, the legislative initiatives in the Republika Srpska entity against media and civil society, if finally adopted, would make a clear backsliding on freedom of expression and of association. These legislative initiatives should be abandoned. Bosnia and Herzegovina is key for the future of the Western Balkans. The country should focus on the positive and constructive European agenda. This is the agenda with real gains and real benefits for everyone. It is the agenda that brings prosperity, stability and peace. And it is the agenda on which we need to work on together. We at the Commission are ready to support Bosnia and Herzegovina in this work and with all our instruments. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.